Everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Virtual Presence, Real Impact, Elevating Leadership with Confidence and Emotional Intelligence. This is our June webinar in a monthly series hosted by Aspen's Alumni and Career Services. I'm Allie, and I'm your Alumni and Career Services Specialist. You can find upcoming events and see more resources we have to offer on our website, which I will drop into the chat in just a moment. This webinar is being recorded, and it will be uploaded to Aspen's YouTube channel and emailed to everyone who registered. Please go ahead and keep your microphones muted until the end, at which point we'll have time for questions. You're welcome to use the chat throughout to share comments or ask questions, and I'll be sure to relay those to our speaker after the presentation. I am very excited to welcome today's speaker, Dr. Shubhi Shukla. Shubhi is an Aspen University EDD graduate whose leadership journey bridges data, education, and human connection. As a passionate advocate for purposeful, people-centered leadership, she brings both analytical expertise and emotional intelligence to the table. Her doctoral research into nurturing executive presence in a virtual environment offers timely insights into how leaders can show up authentically and effectively in digital spaces. Today, she'll guide us through strategies for leading with presence, confidence, and heart, all on camera. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Shukla. I'll stop sharing my screen now and hand it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Ali. I'm just going to share my screen. You can let me know if you guys... Ali, you can let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see it fine.
Okay. Well, I would like to thank Ali for that wonderful introduction and in some insightful remarks. And I really appreciate her setting the stage for me today. And good evening and maybe good afternoon, depending on what corner of the world you are from. I am Dr. Shubhi Shukla. I am a wife and a mother to almost 3-year-old, I would say. That would be turning in August. And I work mainly in data and analytics with a doctorate in organizational leadership. Talking about my research a little bit, because that is what the topic is for today. And my research dove into the art of exuding executive presence in the virtual realm, especially, which is a skill these days, hotter than a summer barbecue, right? So after the pandemic shook up our lives, especially our work lives, even like the old school companies were trying to jump between hybrid or fully remote settings. And therefore this leading with an virtual executive presence is a hot topic. For anyone who is trying to steer the ship or maybe aiming to climb the leadership ladder. Talking about the agenda for today's session, so consider this session as your personal blueprint for enhancing your influence, your presence, and impact in virtual environments. So during this session, we will explore the concept of virtual executive presence and how it is, it differs from face-to-face executive presence. Then we will also examine the role of confidence and emotional intelligence in effective communication. And that will be the key focus of today's session. While I will be discussing the roles, I will also discuss the practical strategies, how to improve your virtual presence through effective use of your voice, your body language, and emotional cues. Then also, along with the strategies, I will be also talking about the common pitfalls that a person is supposed to avoid during that interaction, those virtual interactions. And then we'll finally conclude with a straightforward, actionable framework that I have created specifically for this session, so that we try to grab all the key contents from this session. So yeah, that would be all on the agenda for today's session. Now let's take a moment to reflect on how our world has changed dramatically. in the recent year. I don't know if you can see okay. Do you see the shift to virtual leadership slide right now?
It still looks like
Just
it's on the first one for me.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is it not moving?
Not that
No,
I can
it's not
see.
moving.
Okay.
Darn, so much for making sure everything worked beforehand, huh? There we go. Now I can see it move.
Okay, so do you see the shift to the virtual leadership?
Yep, that's the slide we're
Yeah.
on now.
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, so before diving into the concept of what virtual executive presence is, I would like us to take a moment to reflect on how our world changed dramatically in recent years because the pandemic struck. It barged in literally, right? Fundamentally changing our workspaces and how how the landscape of our work basically. Offices almost became deserted. Video conferencing became the norm, and many of us found ourselves managing from the comfort of our loungewear, which I also do sometimes. So also think about those invaluable informal interactions that we used to have in our hallways or near the coffee machine, and nuanced ability to interpret body language during those interactions. So all of that just seemingly vanished overnight, right? Some leaders specifically struggle to navigate to this new environment, and also feeling out of their depth as they sought to maintain their impact, their executive presence. So this is where the concept of virtual executive presence comes into play. Virtual executive presence is about mastering how to use your digital tools and how to perform in a digital platform. Um, so it basically transforms you from merely a face on a screen into a compelling digital leader, and it doesn't really matter whether if you are in a leadership position or holding that title in your organization. It just works for anyone. Okay, so through virtual executive presence, I would say you can cultivate trust and ensure that your leadership voice resonates powerfully regardless of where you are located geographically. And especially working in virtual settings, we know that our teams are distributed geographically, so we have to overcome those geographical barriers as well. So now let's talk about what executive presence is. I think I'm a bit okay. Sorry about that. So while I was doing my research, many authors have given so many definitions about what executive presence is. But I personally believe it is something that a person perceives in their leader. So there is no one definition of executive presence, but just to put on a definition for you guys on the slide, it is the ability to exude with authenticity, confidence, competence, and emotional intelligence. So let's imagine that I started this session like I logged in late, I didn't say hi to anyone, I just didn't smile, right? I had no energy in my voice and said, and I acted it like, okay, so yeah, let's get started, I guess. So I kind of paused out, I acted it out, like slumped my posture, sitting like this, and had a dull tone. Would you really be interested in listening to me today? And my belief is yes, exactly. And would you feel confident in what I had to say today? And that's there is the absence of executive presence. But instead, Ali greeted us. I greeted you with a smile, energy, and warmth, I believe. So that's executive presence in action. So it's not about being perfect, first thing. It is about to be present in the moment, gather all your thoughts, be relatable to your audience, and being intentional in use of your words. So you need to own your words. So a little small exercise for your brains. Can you think of, and this is something which I was asking my participants while I was doing my research, is that while answering my questions, think of a person who, it can be at work, it can be in your life, who doesn't even have to say much, but when they walk into the room, people listen. And what attributes do you think they have that you right now are thinking about that person? Right now, let's translate this face-to-face interaction that you might have with that person into virtual settings, right? So now think of a person who has a strong presence on Zoom, Teams, whatever tool you're using, and what is making them stand out. Is it like the way they spoke? It was their calmness, it was their, maybe their, how they appeared on the screen, or maybe how they made you feel seen, right? So that's executive presence, I would say, because right now, if you're thinking about that person, that means that person has some kind of attributes or characteristics that is making you think about that person right now. And the difference lies in how you deliver that experience, whether it's like in person or on a screen. But the definition of executive presence remain the same in both contexts, right? It is certain strategies might change for you to how you are exuding that in a virtual setting, but the overall definition remains the same. For example, in a physical room, your body does the talking before your mouth does, right? You have the whole stage for you, and your full body, your voice projection, even like those small cues like facial expressions, your nods, your hand gestures, even breathing sometimes can build that connection with the people that you're interacting. But now I'll take that stage away from you, right? Imagine I have taken that physical space from you, and reduced you to this small box. And now you have to exude the same level of executive presence in that box. So that is what a challenge is, what is one of the challenge of virtual executive presence. So now think of a person who joined a Zoom meeting where the leader logs in with the great lighting, greets everyone warmly, speaks with energy, and get people engaged until the end of the session, not just at the start of the session. Versus who is off the camera, monotone, and clearly multitasking. So which one would you remember? Of course, the person who is more warm and trying to connect with their audience, right? And one thing that I want to share upfront is that many people might be doing all these things, but do not realize that it is virtual executive presence. So, I'm very happy for them who are in this place, because they are on the right track. It's just that the some people might not realize that they are not implementing it the right way. Okay, and with practice and with consistency, especially in cases where the pressure mounts, you still need to be able to exude that level of executive presence. So, I mean, people who already know this are, again, like I said, are in great place, and now they just need to focus on implementation, and that's where the transformation happens. Okay, so this is what executive presence is, and now I'll talk about some key traits. Now, when I was doing my research, there was a long list that came out as the key, I would say, traits for virtual executive presence. But I would like to, of course, I'm not going to present you with all those 100 traits. So I just shortened that list for you, which kind of encapsulates all the traits that I found in my research, and that has reduced to this list. So you have confidence, you have authenticity, you have emotional intelligence, clarity and composure in your communication and your body language as well. Trustworthiness, and also one important thing is cultural awareness. because we are talking about virtual executive presence today, people assume that because you're working virtually, you have to interact with people with different cultures. So if you're aware of their culture, you have that instant connection as a leader and a team, right? So that is also one aspect which I'm not going to discuss it today because otherwise it will be a very long session. So I'm going to focus on just two key traits which I feel are the key ones, is confidence and emotional intelligence, and that kinds of capsulate other points as well. Just because either it's a side effect of presenting yourself as a confident person, and also being emotional intelligent. But before getting into these concepts, I want to bust two biggest myths about executive presence, and or as you would say, virtual executive presence. The first myth is that people often assume that executive presence is something that you're either born with or not. So either you have it or you don't have it, right? But the secret is that over time you can build it. It's a skill, it's a learning trait that you can, um, build eventually or gradually. And I have experienced it firsthand. So think of a little analogy to describe like why am I saying this is that like think of virtual executive presence like driving a car. When you first start, you are awkward, two hands on the wheel, checking mirrors obsessively and like trying not to stall, right? And praying no one watches you, especially parallel park, which I had been there. Like I didn't want people me like watching me parallel park. And that's how exactly how most of us feel when we show up in virtual meetings early on. So where do I look, right? Is my background okay? And this was the first question that I asked Ali when we came in the room, whether my background looks good, right? Why does my voice sound weird on Zoom? So just like driving, with time, practice, consistency, and a few awkward moments here and there, you will get better. So you stop overthinking, you adjust your tone smoothly over time. You know how to enter a meeting with presence, and you start owning your space confidently, right? Um, so and like nobody's born to knowing how to drive. It's similar to virtual executive presence. So with right intention and repetition, you just don't learn it, you just get better at it. Okay. The second myth that I wanted to bust was that executive presence is only reserved for TED Talks or all hand meetings, which is not. Executive presence can be, exuded even in your daily stand-up meetings where you have to give a 30-second update, or in uh, I would say a stakeholder meeting, or in a casual catch-up. So you don't need a stage to exude your executive presence. The more you practice showing up with intention in those small moments, the more natural it will become with when the high stake moments arrive. So now we will dive next into the first trait that we talked about, is the confidence. uh so yeah, in especially in virtual world, there is no room for long winded confusing messages. You want to speak with intention, that means you know what you're saying and how to say it clearly. So that means your ideas are structured and people will listen. Confidence come across not in how much you have to say, but in how clearly you say it. So my basic tips are that you slow down, do not rush in what you are saying, use pauses, sound natural, stress on words that you want people to listen or to hear, and own your words. Own your words as in that you shouldn't be confused about what you're gonna say. You should know what how to clearly articulate your ideas. And your voice is your virtual handshake, I would say. And a steady, calm voice tells the audience that you're in control. Like if I would have, rushed or had a shaky voice like this, you might feel that I'm unsure of what I'm talking, right? And even though if my content is like real solid, people might not have bought in my ideas. So your pitch, pace, and the pauses that you take should feel natural and grounded. uh, Tone is the emotion behind the words. So are you warm, are you energized, or are you flat and robotic, right? So a confident tone doesn't mean that you have to be loud, it just means that you have to be intentional. Okay, your tone should match your message. So if you don't believe what you're saying, it will show in your energy, and that energy will pass on to your audience as well. And I feel that when your tone changes, your posture changes as well, and your energy becomes magnetic. So I'm gonna say one sentence. So I'm gonna give you a demo. I'm gonna say one sentence 2 times in different ways, and you tell me which version would you prefer. So the version one is, I would say, I think this is probably a great idea, I guess, which is like a flat, unsure, like, eyes are darting here and there, and it has a low tone. Whereas a version two, where you have like, where you say, this is absolutely right, in the right direction we are moving, and here's why. So, you see how my posture changed. It was like more upright posture, a steady voice, right? It was more clear, it was more confident. And I believe the second version is something that you guys will more follow more, right? So it's not about the volume, it's about the certainty. People won't buy into your words, they will buy into your conviction. And like I said, in even in a Zoom or Teams meeting, body language matters. So like how tall you are sitting or how slouched you are, if your eyes are shifting, and people might think that, okay, you're multitasking, you're not interested, right? Your facial expressions, your hand gestures, for example, your posture, all contribute to the message that is being received by your audience. So yeah. uh and yeah, one more thing is that the background, the dim lighting, the cluttered, if you have a very cluttered background, it makes the whole session very noisy, and you're distracted as an audience. So and also awkward camera angles, I would say. So if I'm like sitting like this, or maybe just like moving into the camera, right? So it's very distracting to people. So you have to make sure that the lighting is right in front, like it's all not bright enough but not too dim, it's at the right level. Your camera is at the eye level, and you have like a calm background and not too noisy. um okay, so one thing that I believe is that even if you get everything else right, your posture, your tone, your background, everything, but if you don't know your topic, you're not confident, you won't sound confident. So subject mastery, or subject matter expert, that what people say, is something that you should have, and that will make you feel confident. You don't have to fake confidence, it will automatically show in your actions and in your words, of course. So this, being confident is something that will elevate your presence. And presence is not about performing. It is a reflection of your preparation and your credibility that you're trying to create with your audience. Okay. Now let's talk about the role of emotional intelligence. EI is what I like to say. And I feel that this is the engine behind all of it. And I'll pause there just to have a sip of water. Okay. Um, and I have experienced it firsthand, I would say. emotional intelligence is something that elevates your virtual, and I would say executive presence. We'll talk about how to implement that in virtual settings. But in a face-to-face setting, you get natural emotional cues through your body language, size, and subtle reactions, right? But on Zoom, you often get silence, blank screens, emojis, right? So that's why tuning into emotion, reading subtle signals, and responding with emotional awareness is the key to exude virtual executive presence. And now let me paint a picture for you. Something that has happened to many of us. So now you're leading a virtual team meeting, right? It's real high stakes. Your presentation is about to start, but your slides won't load, right? Your camera starts to glitch. Your team looks confused. One person has a camera off, for example. Uh, the person, I mean, most people can have their camera off. It's just that person who is, regularly on camera is all of a sudden is the person's camera is off. And another one is typing loudly. And you're 5 minutes in your meeting and you're already flustered, like what you're just confused, like what to do. So now you have two options. If you lack emotional intelligence, this could spiral, right? You rush, you get frustrated, and you maybe blame your team or platform or people around you. And that energy kind of shifts to your audience or your team, right? But if you're leading with emotional intelligence, here's what you would do instead. You would take a deep breath, right? You notice that the tech is not working, so you just joke around that, like a light humor. That tech is testing us today. Let's give it a moment. In the meantime, I would like to know how my people are doing, right? And then you kind of read the room. You notice that the person who usually is on camera is off camera, and you check in after the meeting with that person. So you regulate your own emotions to the team, so by staying calm and composed rather than panicked, and that's how your team would perceive it. You respond to the moment instead of reacting impulsively, right? You show empathy by validating everyone's frustration, by saying, okay, I do understand, but you know uh, let's come out of this by doing this. And you listen actively. you know you can invite quieter voices in as the meeting resumes. So that is one way to do that. So right there is emotional intelligence in action, right? And if you practice this, you will feel that instant connection uh, you know with your audience. Another thing that I mentioned is use of humor, light humor. I don't have to joke around every single statement, but if you use humor, because no one enjoys monotone meeting with like zero smiles and robotic delivery, right? Humor, when used wisely, is a superpower. So it shows that you are comfortable in your own skin, right? So whether it can be a clever analogy, or acknowledging those awkward virtual moments. So humor kind of creates that, it lighten up people's mood if you are in a panic situation. And emotional intelligence create trust. It creates psychological safety and presence, even virtually. So I haven't spoken all day. um so yeah, to talk a little more about emotional intelligence, it is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage and use of your emotions, proper use of your emotions, both both your own and others, to build that connection and navigate through that awkward situations, especially in virtual settings, and then lead effectively. um Now, today's last slide that wanted to show you was about the framework that I created for you guys specifically, just to keep these terms or these maybe the whole session in mind, and which is three C's. So one is confidence, the other one is connection, and the third one is communication. And we have talked and communication is both non-verbal and verbal, right? So non-verbal would be your body language, your posture, your hand gestures, your facial expressions, and stuff like that. Whereas verbal is like your tone, your, the volume of your voice and stuff like that. And so with this, the session ends, but I just want to break one another biggest misconception around executive presence, that it has to be tied to a title. This was one of the major findings in my research, that executive presence is not about title or the position that you hold in your organization. And thus, this session is applicable for anyone who is, in any position in their organization. So once I have, and this I have experienced firsthand again, I had a person who said that, oh, I'm just an analyst, right? Once I become a manager, maybe then I'll learn about this, right? So, but let me be very clear, presence is not about hierarchy. It's something about you, how you show up, and not your email signature, right? And there was a lady I remember in my past organization who had no leadership title, and she was just a very quiet powerhouse. She came to meetings like prepared. She spoke with clarity and listened like she genuinely cared. And people started to turn to her for her insights, not because she was not because of her rank, but it was just mainly because of her presence. And I can relate to it now, because now that I have researched about the topic. So she influenced the room without ever needing to dominate it, I would say. So by ending this session, I just want you to ask yourselves that what energy are you trying to bring into your virtual space with your audience, right? And how you know you want people to experience you or perceive you, even if you're like passing by, right? So you don't need any corner office to exude presence. You need consistency, you need confidence, and you need care in your interactions. Because at the end of the day, uh, people won't remember your title. People will remember how you made them feel. And that's executive presence. Okay, so with that statement, I would like to end this session. And if anyone has any questions, more than welcome.
Thank you so much, Shubhi. That was a really interesting presentation. I got a lot out of it personally. It was interesting to learn how much more care and compassion and inclusivity is involved with executive presence, way more than that over like leadership and power. Not leadership, but definitely power and title and hierarchy. So yeah, super relevant to me. I loved that. It was a great presentation. Thank you. I will stop
Thank you
talking
so
now
much.
in case anyone has any questions.
Sure.
Just had this one. So I'm not sure I need to say how am I associated with Aspen or not. 4 classes left before the dissertation part. I wanted to know, like, so I have a military background, had a couple businesses, and I'm new to the Zoom, believe it or not. I didn't take part in it with COVID or anything like that. And so now I'm switching to a different industry, and that's all we do. And so I'd like to know, as far as when we get off of this type of platform, have you noticed people's persona or demeanor or an effect to their leadership styles after, you know, they get off of platforms like this? Because I'm a personal person, and you know, I'm used to the face to face, but and I'm confident in that. But what I find is, you know, that shift, that transition, is it harder? Do you find it people having a harder time transitioning from what we're used to these types of platforms, if that makes sense?
Okay. I believe that if someone has an executive presence virtually, it is much easier to exude it in face-to-face settings. The vice versa is something that people struggle with. So, especially for me, when we started to work in completely remote setting, we used to be in a face-to-face environment before that. And like I said, I felt that energy in those, face-to-face meetings from a leader that I used to, perceive their executive presence. But I think personally for me, it is much easier to exude your executive presence in face to face. So if you and you will feel in your gut, trust me, you'll feel that in your gut that people are perceiving you by their behavior, right? So if you feel that is happening to you in virtual executive presence, it will be much easier for you to do the same level or exude the same level of executive presence in face to face. So yeah, the overall definition of executive presence remains the same. It's that there's certain strategies that you might have to follow in virtual spaces that face to face settings give you, as is. You don't have to struggle there. So that's my take on this. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, basically the same, but just being more aware, I would think, you know,
Yes.
more aware of people's facial expressions, their posture,
Yes.
their energy. Because when you're
Yeah.
face to face, you can get it right there. But
Exactly.
yeah, just more heightened awareness is what I hear you saying.
Yes. More heightened awareness. Definitely.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
I think, hi, my name
Hi.
is Karen Armstead, and I am in the dissertation part. I have
Okay.
22 more weeks to go, and I'll
Okay.
be done. I'll be
That's
done.
good for you.
Jesus. Yes. But yeah, I think the difference between in person and Zoom, with Zoom for me, I've really come to the point where I feel comfortable with Zoom because I can practice before I get there. Practice, practice, practice. And I feel confident with Zoom. And I have all my notes everywhere. And I'm there. I'm practiced. I have everything right here. And that's why I feel confident with Zoom. With in person, you don't have time to practice because it's on. You're on. You're
Yes.
on. But the thing with when in person, you have to be confident. You have to be confident in what you know. Your knowledge
Yes.
have to be there. And if you
Yes.
don't have that knowledge, then it's, mistakes are there. And if your confidence is not there, then your mistakes gonna be made. And if, you just have to be confident in yourself. So that's the difference. You have to be confident in what you know in person. But in Zoom, then you right there. You got your paperwork right there with you. It's written down. It's there. So those are the two different. You have enough room for strategy on
Yes.
Zoom, but in person, you
Yes.
it's on.
I,
It's on.
yeah. I agree with that, Karen, because I have some engagements where I have to, be personally there, face to face, and do the same thing that I did over the Zoom today. But for a subject mastery, that was one of my point here. I think even if you have your notes on Zoom, if you are not master of your subject, those notes are kind of, it's all kind of a moot point. It's void. Nothing is there. So subject mastery, of course, is very much needed in person, in person settings, because you don't have any notes to refer. But many people, still take notes with them in face to face. I have seen that they have their own, list of highlighting points. But yes, we can utilize Zoom, like strategies on Zoom better compared to in person. But still, you have to be mastering your subject, be it Zoom, be it in person. Because if you don't understand, even if you have your notes in front of you on Zoom, and if you don't know your subject, people are not, they will come to know that within a few minutes of you opening your mouth, that okay, this person doesn't have enough knowledge. And that happens. And even then people are able to exude executive presence by other characteristics that I mentioned. That might happen in cases where, let's say, a person have joined the organization recently and do not have enough, area knowledge. But the previous subject knowledge that the person has definitely helps him to understand and get there, right? So people are still able to exude without subject mastery, but then people should be aware of that. Okay, this person is in learning phase, and they don't see that person as like, okay, this is a person who has a whole knowledge. They don't see that, so they try to gauge you on a different level of their perception, I would say. So in short, what I'm trying to say is, if you have been with the organization for long, and you should know your subject, and you should have that knowledge. But people will give you some kind of benefit of doubt when you are new to the organization, and gauge your executive presence based on other attributes that I mentioned.
Yeah, you should still be an expert in your subject. You should still know
Definitely.
should still know your subject. Yeah.
Yeah. You should know what you're talking about.
I agree. Good topic.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kay.
For participating so much. This has been a really great Q&A session. Wanted to check one final time if anyone else has any further questions or comments for Dr. Shukla before we call it a night. All right. Well, thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Shukla.
I was going to say that I'm not sure if these guys have my email address, but if they have any questions, or if someone is hesitant of asking any questions on this platform right now, they can always email me on my personal email. I'm just gonna drop my email here just in case. And I kind of talk on different topics around executive presence. So if anyone has any questions. Yeah, and good luck for your dissertation, Nina and Karen.
Thanks.
Thank you. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much. It was a nice audience as well.
Thanks, everyone. You'll get an email with a link to the recording for future reference in case that would be helpful. And feel free to check the website for upcoming webinars. And I hope you have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a great night.
Bye, everyone.